I am in the music practice room of my college because I have space, 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 space. I even have a piano. Okay, whatever, let's get down to the video.
Manule 3.
First, let me give you a short update on my life. So, I've been rowing, and here's our boat, and that's me. Yeah. We had a race yesterday. It was the race to get onto the proper race at the end of the academic year here at Cambridge, and we did not get on the race. We were fast enough, but it was fun. It was really cool, and as you can see, our outfit, we had all the same hats and stuff, and it was so nice to like really feel part of something. So now that you have a short update of my life, I want to share something of this week. It's, I think I've been thinking a lot about in the last couple weeks, and it has to do with humankind. This book, it's about like the good part of humanity, and it's really good, recommended, that I finished around 2 weeks ago, and elections that are going on right now in Colombia. So in general, politics and elections are very polarizing, because I have my candidate that I like and support, and others have their candidates that they like and support, and of course I want to convince the other person to vote for my candidate. There is a sort of incentive to do that. Now this book provides just 2 examples that I just find interesting and I want to share in regard to politics. So the first example is the Christmas truce of 1914, of the First World War. So in the First World War, you had trenches from the British and French side, and trenches from the German side, very close to one another, fighting for centimeters of land. And in 1914, a truce happened, and for a brief moment, in different places of the front, the shooting stopped, and even football matches were played between both sides, and it was a very weird event in which enemies kind of lived the day, or even less than a day, together, or even longer, depending on where in the front. And what I found very interesting was just the quotes of soldiers when they kind of met the other side. And here's one quote that I just want to read to you because I think it's just interesting. So it goes, after our talk, one British soldier wrote in a letter home, "I really think a lot of our newspapers report must be horribly exaggerated." And to me that makes sense. The newspapers were back in London writing about Germans, about the bad Germans, but then this guy met the real German that he was shooting before, and kind of saw like the human behind that. And I think it would be like, I think especially in like political discussions, I'm like often in my trench, right? In my trench, in my argument, and I'm shooting my arguments to the other side, trying to convince them and trying to gain like a couple centimeters of land because my arguments are strong. But then sometimes, like, I should maybe just go out of my trench and try to understand the other side and try to see where they're coming from and why they are in their trench. And I thought that was a very nice metaphor to think about discussions, about opinions, and in this case, of course, politics. And the second thing that I found very interesting from this book was chapter 17. It's titled "The Best Remedy for Hate, Injustice and Prejudice." The remedy is just contact. It's just being close to the other side. So the idea is the following, is if 2 communities are too segregated, prejudice between the communities will rise, and that will lead to more segregation and more separation. And the idea is that if you manage to bring both communities together, and both communities get to know each other and understand the human side of just the other community, and lay all of those prejudices behind, that racism and hate and injustice goes down. So, for example, in the US military during Second World War, officially black and white soldiers were not supposed to fight side by side. But it sometimes happened in the heat of battle. So, and I quote, "The Army's research office discovered that in companies with both black and white platoons, the number of white servicemen who disliked blacks was far lower, to be precise 9 times lower." So that is to me just an example of how fighting together helped soldiers to just drop prejudices from the other side. And I think that's something that we can also apply in politics, right? If I just kind of try to understand the other side and see where they're coming from and why they think the way they think, instead of trying to convince them of my opinion, I can just find solutions and not fuel division, right? Because I think a solution of a problem is not in either side of the spectrum, but somewhere in the middle. And in order to reach that middle, it is important to hear and understand each other before pointing out how bad you are or how bad your candidates are or whatever. And yeah, I think if we could just have a bit more of discussions around understanding and less of discussions about convincing, we would reach more solutions and more peace. So yeah, I will leave you with that thought because it's something that I was thinking a lot about these last weeks. And I hope to see you next week. Cheers.